Picture this, a caravan of camels slowly making its way across endless deserts, their backs loaded with silk, spices, and treasures that most people in the world had never even seen before. Merchants walk beside them, keeping a close eye out for bandits, while the smell of exotic perfumes drifts through the air. This isn't a scene from a movie, it's real history. It's the Silk Road, one of the most fascinating trade networks ever created, and its hidden timeline tells us how trade didn't just move goods, but built entire empires. Now, when you hear Silk Road, you might imagine a single road, like a long ancient highway. But here's a surprise. It wasn't just one road at all. It was a massive web of trade routes stretching thousands of miles from China through Central Asia, into the Middle East, and all the way to Europe. Imagine Google Maps, but for ancient times, routes twisting across deserts, mountains, and seas. Traders, nomads, and explorers connected different corners of the world centuries before airplanes or the internet existed, and along the way, not just silk and spices were traded, but also ideas, religions, inventions, and even diseases that would change history forever. Let's rewind to the beginning, around 2,000 years ago. During China's Han Dynasty, silk was the superstar of world trade. People in Rome, Greece, and Egypt couldn't get enough of it. Imagine holding silk for the first time, smooth, shiny, and light as a feather when all you've ever known are rough fabrics like wool or linen. It was so valuable that Roman writers complained their women were spending fortunes on silk dresses. In fact, some Roman leaders tried to ban silk because they thought it was making Rome weak, but the demand was unstoppable. Silk was just the beginning. Spices like cinnamon, pepper, and saffron traveled these routes, bringing new flavors to kitchens across the world. Horses, glassware, paper, gold, precious stones. Even ideas like Buddhism and Islam made their way across the Silk Road. Can you imagine eating a meal today without pepper or cinnamon? You can thank those ancient traders, but the Silk Road wasn't easy. Traveling it was dangerous and exhausting. Caravans crossed burning deserts like the Taklamakan, whose name literally means go in and you won't come out. Others braved icy mountain passes in the Himalayas where one wrong step could be fatal. Bandits lurked along the routes, waiting to steal goods. That's why merchants often traveled in groups, with guards, and why cities along the Silk Road grew rich by offering food, rest, and protection to travelers. One of the coolest things about the Silk Road is that it created cultural melting pots. Take the city of Samarkand in Central Asia, for example. It became a hub where traders from China, Persia, India, and Europe all came together. Walking through its markets would have felt like walking through the entire world in one place, languages mixing, food sizzling, jewels sparkling, and ideas flowing. It's like the internet of the ancient world, only instead of Wi-Fi, there were camel caravans. Here's something that might surprise you. The Silk Road helped spread inventions that changed the world. Paper, for example, was first invented in China, but thanks to the Silk Road, it made its way west. Imagine a world without paper, no books, no newspapers, no school notebooks. The spread of paper eventually led to libraries, education, and later the printing press, which changed human history forever. Gunpowder also traveled this way, reshaping warfare across Europe and Asia. Even music instruments and artistic styles jumped from one culture to another along these routes. But the Silk Road didn't only carry good things, it also carried diseases. The Black Death, one of the deadliest plagues in history, is believed to have spread along these same trade routes, wiping out millions in Europe. It's a reminder that when the world connects, everything moves: goods, ideas, and unfortunately, sickness too. And let's not forget the empires built on Silk Road wealth. Powerful rulers knew that controlling parts of the trade network meant controlling fortunes. The Mongol Empire, led by Genghis Khan, expanded across Asia, and under Mongol rule, the Silk Road became safer than ever before. They even had something like a passport system, allowing traders to travel long distances with protection. This period saw a boom in trade, and it's when the famous traveler Marco Polo made his legendary journey from Venice to China, bringing back stories that fired up Europe's imagination. The Silk Road also shaped religions. Buddhism spread from India into China and beyond thanks to these trade routes. Islam spread into Central Asia and influenced countless cultures. Christianity, too, traveled eastward. Imagine sitting in a Silk Road caravanserai, those ancient rest stops, and hearing monks, merchants, and mystics all discussing their beliefs under the same roof. That's how interconnected the world was, even back then. Over time, though, the Silk Road began to fade. Why? Well, sea trade routes became faster and safer. Ships could carry more goods than caravans, and European explorers like Vasco da Gama and Christopher Columbus opened up new sea passages that made the old land routes less important. Still, the Silk Road left behind a legacy that can't be erased. It shaped the modern world, proving that when cultures connect, they grow stronger, richer, and more creative. Now, think about this. Every time you sip tea, use paper, or sprinkle pepper on your food, you're touching the legacy of the Silk Road. It is not just an old trade route, it is a hidden timeline of human history that reminds us how connected we've always been. The story of the Silk Road is the story of us, our hunger for knowledge, for beauty, for connection, and for trade that built empires and reshaped civilizations. So, the next time you hear about the Silk Road, don't just think of camels and silk. Think of the internet. Think of globalization. Think of the world we live in today, because in many ways, it all started there, centuries ago. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey through time. If you enjoyed uncovering the secrets of the Silk Road, make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment sharing which fact surprised you most, and subscribe so you never miss more hidden stories from history. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and remember the past is never as far away as it seems.